The broadcast is live.
It is live, but we don't have any friends. It's live, but no friends.
That's it. Leah's here. She's always here.
Yay, Leah.
Faithful.
Oh, Linda.
Linda's giving us signs up. Hands up.
We do have friends.
All right. It's the four of us. We're going to talk this out tonight.
All right, hey, so hey, church, glad to have you here. Hi, Kirsten. Didn't mean to say ouch. Just things are a little bit slow. We just didn't know. I brought Chad on because I didn't want him to be disturbing me with his random comments. So this way I figured somehow I could try to control his. See, come on, he's still doing it. But I would just gladly block him out like that. See, I can control things. But hey, so glad that you're here. We'll jump into it in a few moments. But hey, tell us a little bit in the comment area, if you could. What did you do today? Beautiful day out. What did you do to keep your exactly, Jenny? Exactly. You got that right. Let us know. Hey, what did you do today? Was it a good day? How did you stay rooted in Jesus? All that kind of good stuff. And we'll start talking in a little bit. Leah, she worked. That's sad. I mean, no, that's good. Or sad. Were you obviously inside, Barry? Good to see
Mary
you.
Ellen.
Mary Ellen. Hey, AOC. Hey, AOC. Anywho, this is look at that. Kristen's trying to get 10,000 steps. Did you get it? Did she get it? Did she get the 10,000 steps? That's the question. Anywho, well, church, so glad that you are here. And we know that there'll be people watching this later. So we are really excited for some of the things that we sense the Lord doing in our midst. And if you saw earlier today, I just did a kind of impromptu little live to give you guys a plug to check in on this and also to pray for my time. It wasn't just me. It was about 600 some pastors in the state of Texas that got the opportunity to be on a Zoom call with Governor Abbott. And really, it was a blessing to do that, to hear his heart, to get a sense of what's happening at that level and how he wants the churches to be on the front line, which was really, really encouraging. It really, I felt very, very, yeah, Chad's shirt. Exactly. I'm just ignoring his shirt, yeah. Good night. Maybe this was a bad idea to have him on because I'm more distracted than ever before. All right, Chad, we see it. We see it. Yeah, we see it. Oh my goodness, Kirby, you need to distribute that.
Bring some of those ribs over, Kirby.
So Chad and I live in Belterra. You can knock both of them out in one trip. We'll gladly take some of that off of your hands. So anywho, got the opportunity to be online with Governor Abbott today to hear some things. And he's going to announce some executive orders about the plan to getting things moving again in Texas. And it's going to come out in phases. And I'm not going to share too much of that with you, but there's a lot of implications as to what that means for us as a church. And we know, because we get asked from a lot of people of just going, what's the plan for Austin Oaks Church? How are we going to do this, etc. Kat, I know. Things just never change, do they? They never change. Of course, you weren't saying that, Kat. You weren't saying that about what I said. You were saying that about Chad. So we're just going to clarify that. So if you were with us on Tuesday, I started to share with you a little bit of what church could look like for the next season. And here's the deal. I mean, literally every day something changes. We have no idea. This is where you start to understand where the Proverbs says man makes his plans, but the Lord directs his steps. And that is so true. So we're making our plans, but listen, we're holding on loosely. We're trusting the Lord to lead this step by step, and we're taking our cues from him, and we're trying to figure out what's on the Lord's heart, not just for our church, but also for Austin and for our neighbors and our community. And we're also trying to think, how do we love our neighbors well in this whole season? How do we honor the authorities and all that kind of stuff that's happening? Hey, Kirby, if you got 1.5 hours to go, listen, I will still be hungry in 1.5 hours. Just letting you know. So our heartbeat here at Austin Oaks Church, listen, and I want you guys to listen to this, okay? What you didn't know was the Sunday that we chose or didn't choose, that we had to no longer meet as a large church. We were about to launch out a vision for the next season of the church, and we were going to start talking about things with the resource initiative. And obviously, God had his plans, right? But one thing is still the same, is that we want to be focusing on how to saturate Austin with the gospel. Okay. We believe now more than ever, we get this opportunity to reimagine church. If you really think about this scenario, in this circumstance, in this season, we are walking kind of in a unique way, in a different way, like Acts, like, how do we do this now? What does this look like now? How do we, and so when we start to look forward as being the church, we're going to come up with a phase plan. Okay. And we don't know what exactly that all is, because we're going to wait to Governor Abbott and how he reveals, he communicates out his plan for us as a state of Texas. And so that's going to start to dictate what we can do and be as a church. Some people have asked me, Brandon, is the church considered essential? It is, from Governor Abbott's perspective, but Chad will speak about this a little bit later. Just because we're essential doesn't mean we're going to play by the same rules as essential businesses, because they have different needs. What we discovered, listen, church, we just discovered we can do church without a facility, right? We did Easter, we did Palm Sunday. People are coming to know the Lord. People are growing and connecting. So we want to think through how to be safe, how to be smart, and how to be kingdom minded in this season. So what we do now, 100%, is that the first phase of what we're going to do is to be something that guy said last Tuesday would be something along the lines of thinking through of being a house church concept. Okay. Not saying we're branding a new ministry model, saying we're going to be a bunch of house churches, but we're going to be thinking through how to be little Austin Oaks church communities, not to be confused with our small groups, like thinking through, how do we develop hosts? How do we develop areas in our city to be little churches? And so, Brian, further, where'd the beard go? The beard is coming back, my friend. Is coming back. Okay. So, Chad, you can feel free to jump in at any kind of moment here as I'm just spouting off some things, but I want you to hear this, church. We're going to be focusing strongly on 4 things. We're going to be focusing as a staff on how to connect to each other in a life-giving way, how to connect with Jesus in a life-giving way. We're going to be focusing on that. We're going to pivot some of our instruction to trying to equip you, okay? How to connect with your neighbors, how to equip with your family. We're going to be pivoting and really thinking strongly on this, because it's going to be in our little pockets of communities, our relationships, where the best connections are going to be made, because we don't want to be thinking large anymore per se. We need to be thinking kind of and micro, because that's what's important. So we're going to be helping you connect, equip. We want to encourage you to figure out how you can best serve your local communities, your neighborhoods, families around you. But then here's a big piece. We need to listen, church. We need to be sharing Jesus. We need to be talking about the gospel. We need to be witnessing. People are open. People are eager to hear the hope that we have. We need to be telling them, and we get these opportunities in these little church communities to bring people in, our neighbors, to come in and to build and form community. It's going to be a very important aspect to that. Now, I wanted Chad to be on here because, as you know, Chad is our professor, as it were, our I don't know where that came from. It was just the first word that came to my head. I was trying to think of a clever title, and I couldn't think of anything besides your job title. So he's our executive pastor of discipleship. A pastoralship. And so he's going to be giving a lot of leadership. And as he's been talking to some of our small groups already about what this looks like, we want you to hear this evening something. Yeah, exactly. Call him Professor Chad forever now. Like, that's absolutely right. Okay. So I know some of you laughed. Okay. And you weren't laughing at what I said. You were laughing at me for being really dumb, which is totally fine. I'll give you permission to do that. So there's some things. So Chad, like when we start talking about this, okay, like what are some things that we're going to need to think through and process and even change and adopt a little bit in this season as a church?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we've been tossing this around a little bit as leaders, and I've even had some conversations with some of our group leaders to get their feedback at a Zoom call with a handful of them last night as we were just getting started with this, and want to have more of those from our leaders. But fortunately, we have a pretty healthy group system at the church right now, and that's a great baseline to kind of build on, but that's going to become even more crucial as we go forward. So one of the things we've been talking about as leaders that Brandon's sharing with us and really fleshing out is 2 key principles, and Brandon shared these on Tuesday, that we feel are absolutely vital going forward. One of them is this idea of helping people connect again, not just gather. We can gather as a large church and not connect, if you know that, but you can't connect without gathering in some ways, at least a deeper gathering or connecting than what we've been able to do. So that's one of our priorities, is to figure out how can we best begin to connect people together in more live settings within the healthy guidelines that we're going to hear a little bit more about going forward. So the other one is equipping. How do we equip people within that model? Equip them to reach their neighbors, equip them to grow as disciples, and equip them to make disciples of others. And so our connections and our equipping are going to happen. And the 2 environments that we're looking at is, one is how can we create a small Sunday worship gathering that's healthy, that's safe, that's within the guidelines that will be given this week, yet also is just going to be safe for the people participating. And that's going to look different in different groups. So we've talked about that as well, that each group could look a little bit different based on its participants. But the key to this is going to be identifying some of these locations. So one of the things we're going to have to be doing as we go forward is finding host homes throughout our city that are strategically located near people. Some of them could be even where small groups are currently meeting already. That could be one possibility, but it could be new people opening up their homes as well as we go through this. So that's kind of a nutshell of the strategy of identifying these locations for those 2 gatherings, a Sunday gathering and a weekday gathering. And then from those gatherings, accomplishing our 2 goals of connecting people and equipping them during those times.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You know, like we want to make sure that when we start talking about kind of our weekday groups or our small groups, like, you know, you can definitely invite friends and, you know, your neighbors into that, but that's really an opportunity for us to do life together, right? To grow in our faith together. We don't want to miss the opportunity to see these potential communities on Sunday, to be intentional on how to reach our neighbors right across the street, right next door to us, to invite them in. Okay. So it's like that's a big piece that we want to start to think through. Now, I just totally lost my train of thought, Chad, because you disappeared and you showed up and you're really kind of like scared me there for a second.
Back studio work and my patio.
Yeah. Actually, what caused me to lose my train of thought are my kids are literally screaming and I have no idea what's happening. I'm just going to pretend that I don't hear them.
We're not either.
Yeah. So you're going to have to forgive me, guys. I'm a little punchy this evening. I'm just a little frazzled. So when we start thinking through these opportunities, we know, church, that some of you aren't going to feel comfortable yet, which, listen, that's totally okay. Okay. Like you got to do what you feel comfortable at doing. You know, so we're still going to be doing our live streaming. We're not expecting these church communities to be doing everything on their own. We're going to be streaming our music. We're going to be streaming our message, our children's stuff. We're going to be thinking through other ways how to even equip and even engage in like things post-service, as it were, for you and your groups together as well. We're thinking through opportunities, how to send our staff and even elders to these groups to have a leadership presence there to give counsel and guidance and all that kind of stuff as well. So there's a lot of things that are in this mix, but what we wanted you to know is that more than likely, regardless of what Governor Abbott gives us on Monday, this is going to be the first phase for us. Okay. We don't know how long that phase will be. You're going to hear probably that, churches can open up their buildings as long as they're still practicing social distancing. Because the churches are considered essential, the number of, having to be able to meet with more than 10 people, that might not necessarily apply to church gatherings, but that does not mean that the smartest and safest thing is to open up our facilities completely. So we're going to be playing this by ear. We're listening to the Lord, what's best for us as a church, and how do we love our neighbors well. So speaking on that, I wanted to share with you as a church real quick, I wanted to speak on this real quick about this is a great opportunity for us as a church to rediscover how to saturate our area with the gospel of Jesus. I'm so convinced of this, that this is a prime time for us to start thinking through how to be evangelistic, how to love our neighbors well, to stop thinking about Sunday morning being like the grand piece of church throughout a week. It's just one spot of the church's people. And we got this opportunity to intentionally love folks. Okay. So Chad, if you're noticing on the comments there, people are asking about ABFs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's speak into that if we could.
So let's talk about a couple of those things. So one of the things that we have talked about a little bit as an executive leadership team is regardless of what state guidelines are, which are great, we want to operate within that umbrella, but we don't need those to dictate exactly how we do things. If we don't feel like it's safe to do what they're saying we can do, we want to keep our congregation safe and protected. So one of the things that could happen with opening up our church is you can have a lot of cross-pollination of random people coming and going and crisscrossing. And what the Governor Abbott's trying to accomplish is allowing some essential businesses and people that need to get back to work. They're going to have to go back and do those things. We don't have to gather in a large gathering to do what we want to do as a church. We can still maintain some small gatherings that will be safer and healthier for people, so that people, if they gather, will be coming in contact with the same exact people every week, which gives us much more control over who they're coming in contact with and less cross-pollination for the spread of this. Where if we open up our facility, we don't have control of what people come in and go out during that time. And even though we'd be abiding by other guidelines, there's still much more crisscrossing that's going on in that setting. So that's one thing is our homes will probably be our guidelines for going forward. In terms of ABFs, as Peggy mentioned, a lot of our ABFs are meeting through Zoom right now. I know the Raising Teens one is, the Friendship group is, probably others are as well. But what we would do with those larger groups is just create smaller groups out of them. Most of them have very good leaders within them. That's more than just one leader within that group. And we could find host homes within them and divide them up into sizes of homes within that particular ABF and groups that would be safe for that particular group and abide by the guidelines as well.
Yep. Yeah. And so here's the thing that, we need you guys as well as the staff. And this is just the nature of the thing, right? Like the gospel is the most important aspect of what we are and what we do as a church, right? The mission mandate to go make disciples of all nations, baptizing them. We need to hold certain methods loosely. We need to hold certain things loosely as we are rapidly changing. Everything around us is changing quick. And so we need, you guys to be flexible. Now, listen, that we're not saying that you got to cancel your ABFs or whatever it is at the, whatever your gathering time is. What we're asking you to consider is, we know our church is roughly about 1,200 people, and we want to see the church still thrive and still flourish. And so we do need people to volunteer who feel comfortable, who feel safe saying, yeah, I would open up our home, or even just like our front yard or even our backyard to have people gather together. Like, we can be very creative in how we do this, but we need you to step up to be able to open up your spaces to do this. Okay. Don't feel pressured into it, but we want you to think through, would you be willing to be one of those kind of like communities that we're trying to plan and think about that could do these little micro church, house church thingies? I don't know what to call it, but AOC church scattered, I guess. Who knows?
The ALC, it'll just be Austin Oaks Communities instead of Austin Oaks Church. It'll be our small communities out in the community.
Yep. I mean, that's an important aspect. And so there's like, we wanted you to know, even though we don't have all of the plans and all of the strategies laid out, we wanted you to know that we are intentionally waiting to hear some things from the government to get the guidelines. We want to let you know that we are praying and discussing and thinking through a phase plan as well with the government, just like, how do we start to do church? Okay. And so we wanted you to be in the know and how to start thinking, how to start preparing, and how to start planning. And so we do ask for continued patience and prayer for wisdom and innovation and creativity, but we really, really, really want to encourage you. This is an opportunity. Okay. Listen, this is an opportunity to reach people for the sake of Christ more than ever before. Please, we're here. I'm hearing this from a bunch of friends of mine who, are pastoring multiple churches, that they're seeing tons of people, engaging with them that more than they ever had before. There was a church up north, a friend of mine who just told me that they've seen more people come to know the Lord this past Easter and Palm Sunday than any other time in the history of their church. I mean, it was all online. They weren't in their facility. That tells us that there's things that are happening. God is using this season to stir up hearts. Church, I do believe to my core that, a great awakening and revival is right on the doorstep here. So I'm challenging you, church. We need to, we as believers, we know a lot about Scripture. We know a lot. We know enough in how to follow Jesus well. We need to make sure that we are living this out, that we are giving the reason for the hope that we have. Be bold, be courageous. Jesus died for you. He died for your neighbors. He conquered sin and death so that we could have life in the boldness and the courage to tell people about the gospel. So we want to encourage you to do this. These little house church opportunities is not just about us. It really is a missional opportunity to reach people. Okay. It's a missional opportunity to reach people. Hear that. We need you to step up. We need you to be ready. We need you to say, yes, use me, Lord Jesus, for your glory. Okay. So please know that we are working hard on this. We're trying to think this through. So for those of you who are here, who are small group leaders, thank you for doing what you're doing in this season. Thank you so much for embracing the awkwardness of Zoom. Okay. For those of you in your AB, what's that?
You just say that just as you were talking, Brandon, there's so many of the groups, Cats group, the Joint Heirs group, the Friendship group. I know the Bertram's group that's meeting during the week is meeting. I mean, and that's just a handful of them. I've Zoomed with a lot of them, and almost every group has figured out some way to get on Zoom and stay connected. Every meeting I've had, I'm hearing people that are staying connected with their people. They've been incredibly flexible and done this extremely fast, having no ramp up time at all. It's just kind of thrust upon them. So these are ready to roll. I think our leaders are ready to make this transition. I think they're going to do a great job as and honestly, it's going to be easier and even more exciting because if for them to facilitate these groups through Zoom, I don't know about you all, but you get much more than 4 or 5 people on a Zoom call, and it gets really difficult trying to manage all the conversations and even read the body language. So I think once they get a chance to come back and meet in a safe way, it's going to be pretty exciting for them. So,
Yep. So, I mean, seriously, thank you for continuing to do that. We need to, here's the appeal is we need to be connecting more people into groups. Like small communities is going to be so important. We say it all the time at Austin Oaks Church that small groups are important. Like, we will realize just how important they are right now in this season. And it's not just for us who believe Jesus. There's a lot of our neighbors who need to be connected in a community as well. We need to be people of hope. We need to be extending that. So, church, as you start to hear from us, the plans being rolled out, pray and be open and asking the Lord if you would be willing to be a host. We will facilitate we will give you everything that you need. You guys can facilitate all that kind of stuff. We will have leadership spread out to these places, but we need places around the city that we can be able to host these AOC communities or AOC house churches or micro groups or oak rooms or, hey, oak rooms. No, that just sounds weird. Okra. No.
Hey, two cool stories to even share with that, Brandon, in terms of people getting connected, to help people realize this with this online presence that we've had. What that does is it breaks down one more barrier for people to check out our church. For us that have been attending church for a long time, it's really not that intimidating to walk into a church. We're often excited to learn about it, to meet some more believers. But for someone that hasn't done that, it's a huge barrier. But what they will do is watch something, and after watching it a few weeks, they feel comfortable and they say, I think I'll take that next step. So a couple stories of that. One girl named Liz, a young adult that started attending our church during this period. So she caught us online, started interacting through social media with us. She filled out a connection card. Molly got her name to me. I got her name to Courtney Mitchell, who's one of our young adults group leaders. Courtney connected her, and she jumped in last week to their Zoom meeting as a group for the young adults. So immediately connected. I know another lady named Mariana. She started attending as well, wanted to get connected, followed through that process. I got her connected. She was interested in meeting with other women. Her night worked for our women's Bible study, so I connected her with Leslie and Barbie. They immediately contacted her, brought her in, and so she's now meeting with them. And all these are connections. This is just a few of the stories of people that are getting connected during this time that have never physically been on our campus. So it's a huge opportunity. And even as we talked about, one of the things we could do is easily create connections within our neighborhood and invite neighbors, or even hand them something and say, hey, watch this. This is our service on Sundays. These are some things going on. And then letting them know, we're going to be meeting at my home or this neighbor's home, in the weeks to come to watch these together. We would love to include you into that and give them something that they would go and watch in private, and it's a lot more safe that they might not step into someone's home or into our building for the very first time. But we have a great opportunity to start that bridge now.
Absolutely. This really is an awesome season for the church in so many ways. It's a great time just to start to be real intentional and real mindful of who our neighbors are. This is exciting. So
Omar's got a great idea, Brandon.
Yeah, I saw that, garage rooms. There's a reason why he's not on this video right now. You know what? I'll say this.
Omar, I'm with you, because then the barbecue, the carne asada, could be right outside there, right by the garage. I'm totally with you, Omar.
I'll tell you, Omar is probably the funniest man I've ever met. He's hilarious. So yeah, Leah, you bring up a great point. I'm just going to throw this up there. It's like you get to, I want to encourage you when you watch us online on Sundays, okay, do share it, do a host, party type of deal. It's really, really important to do that, because you just never know who is going to watch it, who's going to connect, all that kind of stuff. And so we're also we're going to be working on a fairly robust new next step process as well, how to help people get connected, because again, things are different in this season. We don't have the facility in a central hub. We also know that there's an opportunity to be reaching people, like we've been saying this whole time, who don't know the Lord. So we're thinking through how to help people get into alpha groups potentially to discover who God is and to discover, who Jesus is and all this kind of stuff. So this is an amazing opportunity for us to have our palms open, to make plans, but to trust the Lord to direct our steps. This is an awesome. So Shannon, one of the questions you asked was the target number of people per home. So here's a great question. Okay. We don't know. We really don't know. So we were just talking about that. Okay. So here's one of the struggles with this is we don't know because the church is going to be exempt from the 10-person gathering rule. And we don't know what that number is. We'll hear it next week, but just well, there's still a square footage problem in people's homes, right? We still have to maintain social distancing. From what we heard from Governor Abbott today was households can meet together. So if we were meeting in a public place, one household could be here, 6 feet apart, another household could be here, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're thinking about a house, you need to figure out how to accommodate, right, that spacing. But also, it's a great thing. Sorry, Peggy. But that's why it's maybe it's not inside, maybe it's outside. Some of you guys have awesome outdoor living spaces, and you can start thinking through that way, which is extremely, another possibility. I should say extremely, but it's another possibility. We don't know yet. Okay. So that's where we're having to play this by ear and be flexible with the news and info that comes our way. It was just a twisty tie, Peggy, just a twisty tie.
Yeah. To kind of piggyback on that as well. I think, if the governor says groups of 10 or 20 can start meeting, we're going to stick to those guidelines, and that's probably pretty feasible in most homes. And then as he increases it, really the home will be the limit for that part. We'll keep things safe within those guidelines and just ask for people to give us a general idea of how many people you feel you can comfortably fit in your home. And then we'll create groups around that guideline. Yeah. So we won't tell people how many they have to have. We'll just say, here's a home. It can hold this many people safely. So once we get to that number of people, it will be full, and we'll have to find another site to include additional people. So that'll be really flexible based on the home.
Yep. And when we talk about equipping too, we're going to make sure that we resource you appropriately to help folks know where your home is and all that kind of stuff. But you can start to see and imagine a little bit just how many homes we might need. If you were just to do the math, so that's a big deal. That's why we're saying, please prayerfully consider that, how to go about that. And we're going to be flexible in how we move forward.
And I love Michael's question too, of just talking about long-term, once life goes back to normal. That's a great question, Michael. Our goal is not to go right back to where we were. We feel like there's a lot of things we're learning through this, and some great things, very effective ways of ministering to people, and just being more intentional with our neighbors, that it's not going to be either this model that we're doing right now, or once everything's open, we go back. It's not an either or. I think when things do go back, it's going to be a both and we've talked about how we could use a lot of these strategies for future things we want to do around church planting or other locations and so forth, starting in neighborhoods. So that's an awesome thought, Michael. You're definitely thinking, long-term and staying missional with what's happening.
Yep. And Amy, your post there is absolutely right. It's more like we're looking for hosts. We're going to provide the content, and so it's like we're looking for that. But we would love for folks to be mindful, if you're going to be a host, to be mindful of how to engage your immediate neighbors as well. We don't want to miss that opportunity. We don't want to just have these homes and stuff just for us. It's an opportunity for us to invite other folks in as well. Okay. So that's very important. And one of the things, I was just talking to a buddy of mine, who's a worship pastor in a church in Dallas. And we were just talking about what are we learning as leaders within the church? And it's like, I think a lot of times we sort of idolize or maybe lean too much on our bells and whistles within our facilities or even our facilities generally. And I mean, just think about how many conflicts and arguments and divisive things happen all around the programming, things that happen within the facility. And all the while, what do we miss? The people outside of the facility, right? So this is a great time to be reminded that the facilities and lights and sound systems and all these other things, they're tools in the tool belt to reach people for Jesus. They're not to be memorialized or idolized or to be propped up as something greater than another thing. They're just tools, right? So that's exciting for us to go. Like for me as a pastor, I've never experienced Easter outside of church building, right? Like just to go, wow, we just did Easter without a facility. Like, you normally wouldn't think that would ever be possible, but we reached a lot of people this Easter, more people than we have before, and it's just like God is up to something. Pat, your question there about sermons online. Yes, everything is online. Everything will be streamed. Absolutely. As normal. Yep. So you can still, yes, Leah, you can still wear your best PJs and enjoy them as you have been if you don't want to be with other people. Absolutely. None of that's going to change.
Yeah, and we'll even have different groups. I've even thought through and strategized with leaders too of creating different tiers of small groups. So there may be some small groups that are much more comfortable being a little bit more open and operating at the extent of the freedom that the governor gives us. But there may be some people that would still like to meet face to face, but can't be in a group that's quite that free and open. And so we'll develop some guidelines and work with those people as well. And the beauty of having a lot of microsites is you can create some more customized environments that could be safe and healthy for each person. And then there's still going to be the people that need to stay at home and they'll have access to it as well. So we're going to have a lot of options and been thinking through a lot of those strategies too, so that anyone that wants to meet with people and is capable of, hope we can find them an environment that's going to be safe and effective for them. So,
absolutely. Like who knows what phase 2 and phase 3 looks like. I mean, it really could start to become, we got a small community, a group of people are meeting at the Austin Oaks facility, potentially, who knows? And then different groups out in the community, and some people who still don't feel able to go or shouldn't be going, so it's like, we're going to be on our toes as we do this. And guys, listen, stop with the cats. The cats cannot watch it. They're a lost cause. Okay. And don't email me. You can email Chad. But if you guys have any other questions, feel free to ask them. You can, even do that.
You see that? My cat's actually wondering if she's going to be in heaven. So she's been reading John's Burke book during this series. She was really interested. She loved the last message.
Yeah. And the unfortunate answer was no. Oh my goodness. I'm just kidding, folks.
Right. Just had that was too cute.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That's pretty cute.
I totally lost my train of thought and ended it
upside down. If you notice that, she was reading upside down, but she's pretty talented.
Well, there you go. Cats, right? But anywho, church, feel free. If you got questions, email us. But if you could do us a favor, if you're interested in being a host at one of these micro communities, whatever we call them, please email Chad. Okay. That's chad.mccartney@austinoakschurch.org. You can, sorry.
Get on the website.
Yep.
As well.
Right there. Let us know. So that way we can start to plan, because the chances of this happening would be May 3rd. Okay. So that's pretty quick. So we want to be able to be on our toes to start mobilizing some of these things. Okay. So you're going to hear this from us. We're going to push this out just to be asking, who's willing to host their homes, who's willing to host their homes. And we want to make sure that we can equip you to do that. We do all that you can to make it good.
And let me clarify that too, Brandon, because someone asked this question. It's just good to clarify it. hosting does not mean that you're leading that service or facilitating it all. They're two totally different things. In fact, I really would like those to be separate people if at all possible.
Yep.
So the person facilitating can just focus on that, getting things set up and ready to play, can kind of transition from worship to the sermon. If there's some connection questions afterwards, they can do that, facilitating some prayer time. So they'd really be kind of a host for our site there. And it could be a group leader or anyone we train to do that and give them the resources each week. But that would be ideal if that person was also not the host. So if you just love opening up your home, have a place you'd love to do that, let us know. We'll bring in a facilitator or a leader that can actually lead that time.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, church. We laughing at Peggy. Peggy, I miss you, Peggy. I miss you, Peggy, so much.
We'll take his toys away. Here, let me see if I can grab them. Oh, wrong way. Am I going towards you now?
Yeah, no.
No.
I can't help it. I'm a fidgeter, and cameras make me nervous, and I don't know how to do this. So I really can't wait to be in front of people. Anywho, love you, church. Stay safe, stay smart.
Love you all.
Excited to worship with you this coming Sunday, not Wednesday, Sunday.
Don't ever forget who you are either. Don't ever.
Oh boy. On that note, we're going to say goodbye. Till next time. Love you.